Hello, once again, audience, and welcome back to DomiNations with Christopher. Do we want the chat? No, I don't think we want the chat. Okay, what are we doing? We are actually going live in order to cover some of the QA, hopefully. Why did Kratos go on the wrong target? The problem is, I just started war in boot camp, which is a huge war, 35 versus 35. Plus, we've got this going on. And I don't really understand what the format here is going to be, but hopefully we'll figure it out. Let me jump on the live on the actual voice server here as well. There we go. So we got voice connected. If you would like to come over and pop in and have a chat with me, then feel free to do so. Let's see. Turn that up a little bit. Okay, so let's see. We can. And of course, like I said, trying my very best to record who is going to be kicked. Wrong target, no nom. So we got 5 in. What do we have so far? So the plan is here, while I sit here and stare at the forums, I don't even know what the format of this is going to be. It's supposed to start in like a minute over the general discussion in the Nexon forum. I believe that's where this is going to be happening. Here we go. So, with that being said, let's see what we can do here. Are we able to actually add a window? Window capture. Window capture 2. Okay. Oh, hey, would you look at that? So if we edit that bad boy, we should be able to go and resize that. Select region, maybe. Maybe. I know you were hoping that I had some porn open, but there's no porn, I'm sorry. So, maybe that will allow us to have a little bit more freedom. Freedom! There we go. Because that's what you guys showed up for. So let's keep it real. Or as good as we possibly can, anyways. 15, 18, 21, 19, 22. Zodal, that's good. Whoa, these guys are... Okay, so, let's focus. Let's try and focus anyways. If you missed it, you can come and join me on the Discord server if you wanted to discuss any of the questions or answers. I'll likely be doing a lot of F5ing in order. Wow. This is from S. How. Holy, he obviously had this all typed out beforehand because that's just a copy pasta. 8 of our last 10 have been against teams mix high-end atomics with undeveloped accounts to intentionally manipulate the matchmaking algorithm, aka they've been sandbagging. Create a scenario where the team is significantly more powerful, both offensive and defensive, their opponent. We don't know war weight formulas, which is okay. We have to go off of our levels, but those can be fairly good guide. Many words, if you take average level and compare the opponent's average level over removing very few, 10 to 25% of the roster and undeveloped accounts, we're still disadvantaged by 34 more levels. Absolutely insurmountable odds. And it now happens almost every single war. I encourage you to look at our war history to see the effect it's having. I don't want to say the word sandbag because I feel the community and developers have different definitions of them. However, in 100% of the examples in our war history, you can look at these undeveloped accounts and never make hits. And even if they did, they only exist because the matchmaking system is so vulnerable to the strategy, and they almost never existed before the glory came out on the leaderboard alliances. Even a 10% 2 to 3 accounts in 20 to 30 person war have been known to completely skew a match. None of these accounts have been a part of a diverse team. So he's speaking directly toward the matchmaking, and more significantly, what he is talking about is sandbagging. And we've discussed sandbagging at length in the past. So what his questions are: do you feel the strategy of taking undeveloped accounts that lower the war weight to create a significant mismatch on the top end is acceptable and should be rewarded more than a team starting their most capable players? If yes, thanks for helping us see the future of this game. If not, how and when do you plan on addressing this problem? We've heard too many times we don't want the game played like this. We're constantly monitoring and trying to improve, etc. The fact remains that no material action has been taken in 9 months, and the problem unbelievably continues to grow. If you take action, how will you both protect the ability of the best heavyweight teams to remain at the top of the leaderboard, but in a way that doesn't discourage teams to drop war weight artificially, which allows them to ensure they have no real competition in their wars? Said in other words, how will you encourage peers to battle each other rather than teams vastly different in strength, while still giving them the best, heaviest, strongest teams the ability to rightfully be on top of the leaderboards? Whew! Wow. And that's not even all of it. I'm trying to read the most important bits here. Now, I'm curious. Like that's a very serious question, very well thought out. Eshow has always been very well spoken, very strong, and proud member of Prodigal Thieves, which is a wonderful alliance, very heavyweight alliance. How's our war going? Okay. Now, that really is frustrating. I think that's... and he's actually provided a few of these options, and there's been the Leaders for Change movement. Prior to that, there was a petition to actually get Nexon to fix the war matchmaking. There's been over 25 different strategies in order to actually account for or fix the matchmaking algorithm. One of the simplest ones being to tighten it. But the problem with tightening that algorithm such that if you're ranked at number 1, you would be ranked with a team that had somebody plus or minus, the same as the multiplayer, but on a player-by-player system. So as soon as you click find a war opponent, that's what you're hunting for. That's what you're searching for. What are you eating, son? Is it good? Okay. Can you sit down while you eat it? It was nap time. As you can see, that really didn't last. Now, how are we supposed to get the responses? I mean, I'd be interested in having more information on matchmaking, like how alliances weight is calculated exactly. What's the range of this? Okay. The question that I have specifically is the university research accounted for within the matchmaking algorithm? What else did I want to ask? Are there any plans to allow the players to see war weight? Or even some transparency as to what exactly and how exactly offense, defense, university affects war. Matching. Not university, university. Let's see. I'm sure the forums are probably just absolutely lighting up at this point, is the best way to put that. The question I have is the university research accounted for within the matchmaking algorithm? Are there any plans to allow the players to see the war weight, or even some transparency as to what exactly and how exactly offense, defense, university affects war matchmaking? And I don't know, like, are we going to see a response from these people? Kovada said, why did the last letter to the community basically say this was fixed? This is demonstrably untrue. How does Big Huge Games define a sandbagging alliance? How is inter-alliance war ranking done? That is, what determines who is the number 1 player versus the number 15 player inside a war. It is definitely not strength of a defense offensive upgrades, as I've seen totally maxed players be ranked far below a level 200 player. I like all of these questions. You know, I think we're getting some decent feedback from these guys. I'm excited to see some of the harder questions be asked in direct relation to the math that's used and what we do actually know. And really I want to have a conversation, hopefully later on when Marla comes home. Her and I will probably do a little bit of a live stream and a summation of today's events, because I'm sure this is going to be ongoing. In all likelihood, they can't say, okay, we're going to have this for 1 hour and that's going to be it. I don't think that's fair to anyone. So I think later on tonight, probably around like in 7 hours when Marla's home, and maybe we'll even let her eat something, her and I'll sit down and discuss it, because yeah, because I do want to see these answers. I want to see how the format by which they're going to answer, who's going to answer. Okay, so he's answered that, and this has been a question by everyone. That's stuck there. You can tell I'm just F5ing, waiting for a response. Are you playing with your trains? Desmond? I love you. Did you make it? Say, look, Dad, I made it. Very good. If you guys didn't notice, I'm actually on voice as well. We got Sturf here, who has muted himself, but I'm curious if he wants to unmute himself, maybe, to hear you guys' feedback on this as well. I don't think anybody's actually intentionally muted on our server here. So if you're muted, it is on your end or your device. And of course, people asking for war advice. This all, of course, my poor planning has only allowed for this to all come to a head within 15 minutes of one another. Here, have a war and ask me anything, etc., etc. I think the general consensus would be very much surmised. I don't know what this guy's in this first post from S. Howe, and thank you so much for actually putting that out there. I mean, he's put a lot of thought and a lot of effort to have typed that up and get it first on the list. That's fantastic. Absolutely swimming, and I don't see a whole lot of trolling. I think really the overall question is this: what is Nexon Big Huge Games going to do in regard to the matchmaking algorithm? How does it work currently? Why is it so easy to manipulate it via the sandbag method or inactive account methodology? Are they going to fix it? If so, how are they going to fix it? When can we forecast or see that that's actually going to come about? Something to hold them accountable. It's really the transparency of the thing that I think has been a very large detriment to this game. And the attrition from larger alliances and middle alliances is astronomical, even to such an extent that they expanded their search algorithm in the last 5.3 update in order to allow teams to match. And I'm sure that they have the best intentions at Big Huge Games, which is based out of the US. As far as resolving and keeping this game going, this is a one-of-a-kind game. It really is. And unfortunately, I do feel that due to a lack of transparency and some political jazz going on, they're not doing what this game is justice by its representation, by Big Huge Games representation, by Nexon's representation, and by their lack of action or accountability to the community. So I am curious to see what the responses here are. And it's not an Ask Me Anything. Let's be clear. You can't say, we're going to have an Ask Me Anything, and then go ahead and say, question and answer session. Well, that's not how you advertised it, right? You advertised it as an Ask Me Anything. While our goal is to answer as many questions as we can, some questions may not receive an answer. It's like, what kind of a disclaimer is that? I mean, I don't, excuse me. Don't get me wrong, and before I love you, man, I really do. I think you do a swimming job as a community manager. You've always been there to back us up. And I really do appreciate that, but I do find it a little bit frustrating that you've got, BHG, and then you say AMA, because that's how you put it out in your tweet. That's how you put it in the Facebook post. Some questions may just flat out not be answered. That's not an Ask Me Anything. I don't know. I'm sure the developer that sat down with him, though, I don't know what the format is. If the developer is actually at his desk, sitting around with the community manager in the same room as NB4, I'm sure that if that's the case, I would love to have seen the developer's face when he actually finished reading this. He probably stood up and went, "What? Really?" It's a huge deal, and I'm pretty sure, I'm 98% certain that NB4, based on who he is and how accountable he is and how responsible he is to the community, he does an excellent job. He really does. I'm positive that he has tried to communicate these frustrations and this on several different occasions. So I think this might make his job easier in the end. Potentially, NB4 is going to take a lot less heat as a result of having an Ask Me Some Things. But I am kind of sad that it's not really an Ask Me Anything. And we don't want to ask anything, right? I think we, the community, have, maybe half a dozen questions that need answering and would like to see answers. Thanks for the question and being part of the discussion. For your question, do university upgrades count in matchmaking? Yes, they do. how do we, okay. Okay. To what extent do university upgrades count? Is it 90%, 10%, 2%? What are the other factors included in matchmaking and their rankings? But more pressing, I would like to see, who is it? Who is it? It is S. Howe. There we go. So I feel that was really quite fluffy. I mean, I'll be honest, I've been asking that question in regard to the university upgrades or university research counting and war matchmaking for, I would, 3 weeks? Potentially even a month. I've been asking that question. So it's good to have an answer of yes, but that's only like the tip of the iceberg. Yes. I have that confused look, the same as when, my 10-year-old says, Dad, did you want this or this? And I say yes, right? It's a valid answer, it's a complete answer, it's an appropriate answer, but it still leaves you hanging. It's almost as close to a non-answer as I think you're going to get. So it looks like the answers are actually coming through proxy, by proxy through and before. If individuals, people at ranks, Clint's around. If individual people at ranks compose and create a team's war rank. Snow Leopard. We were recently matched up against a top alliance in a 25 by war where they used 5 Iron Age bases and the rest of the 20 were Atomic Age. Our number 1 was a match for their number 15. You guys say that sandbagging and matchmaking has been resolved, or are you addressing it? However, the reality is that it is simply not resolved. Are you guys taking any major steps to curb the matchmaking or sandbagging disparity? Again, very fair question, but it falls in line of those 5 questions that we all want answered, right? And the Leaders for Change movement kind of pushed in that direction because it's all one bag, and I think that's where there was a line that was drawn in the sand. And that's the whole problem here, is that everybody brings up sandbagging and they say, these guys are morally degenerate and they're jerks and they're none of those things. These are just people that are looking to play a game, the same as anyone else. The problem at the very top, and it's a mathematical problem that they really just simply should have admitted, it's a math problem. When you're at the very top playing ice hockey with the likes of Crosby, and you come to my small town and you say, I want to play against somebody that's of my skill and caliber, well, it just doesn't exist, right? When you put a team together that are all like Crosby and do you want some juice? My little boy just walked by with the juice and a glass. Bring it here, please, bud. I'll help you. Do you got some juice, or do you need some help? Yeah, if you put a team together of Crosby and all these other hard-hitting, high-end hockey players, and you say, come to a smaller town, bring it here, please, and say, we want to set up we want to face your team. We want to fight. We want to have a game. The problem at that point becomes that nobody else has that same ability. You need your cup too, right?
Ow.
Are you okay?
Ow.
What's the matter?
Ow.
Is your tummy hurt?
Tummy.
Uh-oh.
Hurt.
Why is your tummy hurt?
Tummy hurt.
Well, you can't be hungry. Did you maybe need some juice?
Tooth.
If you go get me your cup, I can pour you a little bit. So that is not the responsibility of big, huge games to go ahead and find you other players like that. Or maybe it is. Maybe you want to play a game where you're putting the onus and the responsibility of finding other heavyweight teams on the developer. But it's by nature. You've got to wait. There's got to be tenure in a game in order to come up with those teams. But on the flip side of that, as far as finding a match, the error should be clear and concise. If you click that search button and you are of that top 1% and there's nobody there to match with, the error should concisely say you're not going to find a match, right? And that's the problem, is that lack of forward communication or clear, concise communication and responsibility therein. It's not the responsibility of big, huge games to develop really, really tough alliances for you to fight against. Where are we at? Sorry, this one's by Witch. I think reworking the whole matchmaking algorithm could be disastrous, as it may or may not lead to long queue times. However, sandbagging needs to be addressed. And this leads back to what I was saying. It's the matchmaking algorithm, and when I was talking about both sides of the fence, one of them was those long search time. The other one was, which I heard has been addressed for the most part, was stalemates. There was a problem with stalemates where the top teams were facing stalemates like every single war. If they were up against a like opponent, they were stalemating over and over and over. And that's adject to base design, wall level. It didn't seem to really matter. Now with the introduction of the stronghold, I think that's kind of somewhat resolved that, but there is still a problem with matchmaking, period. Just matchmaking. So this guy's Witch, him, her. One, restrict age. Rosters with AA players can only bring up to an industrial AA allies. I don't believe that's the answer. To scale the glory penalty to single digits when there is a large, to be determined, level gap between the top players versus the lowest level player. I don't think that's fair either. I don't agree with either of those. I don't think that you should that shouldn't be a finite restriction of going to war. I think that they have a lot of smart people. I've certainly met a lot of very smart people within the community that have the ability to work out the quartiles and the standard deviation, etc., in order to find valid matches. You okay? Did you fix it? Did you fix it? Did you just have sticky stuff on your tummy? I love you. How's your juice?
Juice.
Good. You're playing with your trains?
Thanks.
Yeah. Dad's doing a live stream. Can you say live?
House.
Live. Say hello.
Oh.
Hello. Yeah. So, as far as number 2, scale the glory penalty to single digits. You have to understand not everybody's after glory. I'm sure, and it's all based on an individual level, because even me coming from the Last Outlaws, I can say glory isn't really that important to us as a team, but most certainly are we opposed to glory to an extent that we want to lose wars? No. So by naturally, we are going to achieve glory because we like winning wars, but it doesn't mean that that's our end goal. Our end goal isn't to win glory. We don't care about glory. Last one here. Master Contrail. Is there any chance of having a war option checklist before the beginning of search? Things like minimum, maximum age, whether troop cards, donations, tactics, mercs will be allowed, etc. I realize this would make matchmaking take longer in some cases, but I figure some alliances may find it worth the wait to ameliorate? I've learned a new word. I need to look that up later. Some of the randomness inherent in the current system. Instead of just having a single leaderboard for the thousands of alliances out there, is there a chance we may see alliance leagues similar to the player versus player ones? And that, I think, is I don't think there's any problem with that. I do really like that as a concept as far as leagues, because the frustration from the top tier alliances is that, you know, you're putting them both in the same kind of basket. You're saying that this little tiny gunpowder alliance is in the top 100, and they're sitting right beside these guys that you know, it just doesn't work. But they are both by rights #1 in their league or for their levels. All right, so here we go. How does it influence? So again, Clint's asking about you may, okay, so he's saying I have to refresh my page a couple of times. I don't think he really read. Okay. I'm old school. I've done forums a lot of times. I don't think I need to refresh anymore, unless your forum's that slow. The only one I'm... Yeah, no, he didn't answer that question. Give me 5. Good man. Go play with your trains.
I've been told,
You got it? No. Make what? Are you going to play with your trains for a bit? Dad's reading. Are you going to listen? It's like a book. No? You don't want to read with me? Okay, you play with your trains then. Let's see. Scuba. Is that like Scuba Steve? With a hand? Has there been any thought to alliance leagues? I don't... See, and the problem isn't the glory. People are focused on the glory, and I think that's... It's somewhat of a valid measurement, but, you know, it has been addressed and it has been determined that the math therein is appropriate as far as how much you win versus how much you lose. And people don't... Let's face it, sandbagging doesn't actually occur as a result of glory. It's not that, like, these guys aren't glory focused. I think even the sandbagging alliance would prefer to have a fair matchup, right? A fair matchup, or maybe they just stink at this point. I don't know what it is, but they shouldn't have to worry about it, right? You should be able to put whoever you want in war, and the system should go ahead and give you a match that's suitable. That's the end of the story, right? That's where it should stop. You should join an alliance and they should say, oh, you're in Iron Age. Did you want to war with us? And you say, yes, I'd love to war with you. 35 atomic age max players. And they should say, okay, let's stick you in war. And you should be matched up appropriately in a fair matchup. Here's Gail. I love what Gail's always got such good things to say. Since sandbagging has been addressed by as how very thoroughly, I wanted to ask something that has bugged me for quite a while. As the match is being made, how is the war ranking determined? It seems that the heavier weight maxed out bases, especially in disproportionate matches, sandbags or not, are ranked in the middle of a 20 versus 25 raw 20V and a 25V roster. It is not uncommon to see an atomic age level 240 base ranked number 9 or 10 below global age base in the 190s. How do you determine, and she's referring to the XP level there. That's what she's talking about? Help with? You okay? Do you want me to hold this? She's referring to the XP level, and your XP level is not a determining factor of... That was yours. Tablet. Your XP level is not what they use in war, and that's why I asked, what exactly, are you guys planning on telling us what that number is? Are we going to be able to see that at some point to be able to determine why people are ranked the way that they are? Because right now it's very shrouded. It's, don't touch the curtain. The wizard behind the curtain says don't touch it. So that's how I feel it is anyways, because XP is certainly not playing into it based on what she's saying. How do you determine the war ranks? And could this be a reason for such terrible mismatches that do not involve sandbags? Right, so there's another problem, is that gap is so large. Are the same principles being used in rank used in the actual matchmaking algorithm? If so, is there a way for these maxed bases to mask upgrades, either intentionally or through glitches, so they don't show up in the searching? It can't be the selective upgrades, because these bases are upgraded both offensively, defensively, are much more advanced. Oh, careful. Who's that? Is that Pammy? It can't be the selective upgrades because, sorry, just a little bit distracted. Actual XP upgrades, and in research upgrades as evidenced by tanks, spam, and unbreakable walls. Thanks for taking the time to answer our questions. Bomer's just simply said, how would you guys rank it so far? He wants to get because we've seen the last State of the Nations that we saw and the release notes for 5.3 effectively said, matchmaking is fixed. We fixed sandbagging. Look at how great we are. Pat ourselves on the back.
Nope.
That's not ours. That's not ours. That one's not ours. Let's leave that one alone, okay? That one's Stephanie's. Stephanie's. Let's just leave that one there, okay? That one's Stephanie's. Let's have 5 this. Let's see. I figure don't sit on the tablet, dude. You can't sit on the tablets. We know this.
Okay, Daddy.
Okay, buddy.
Dad.
Again, why are we seeing that's my frustration with this? Is this certainly the side where you are affected on this is called sandbagging, but the problem is matchmaking, right? Can you say match? Making. Making. Matchmaking. It has to do with matchmaking. It's not sandbagging. I don't even care what their definition of sandbagging is. Fix the matchmaking algorithm, and inherently it would be inclusive to fixing sandbagging or fixing mismatches or fixing all of those things. You would be in a fair matchup where both sides had the equal opportunity to win. Either that, or they either have to take a complete step back from.
Okay, what do you guys think is inside that box?
I love you, sir.
No.
Yeah, that's perfect. Perfect. It's good. No, just leave it.
Leave it.
Yeah, leave.
No.
I don't think at this juncture. I honestly don't think that they're going to answer anything real on here. I think this is just more fluff. I had hoped that we would be coming here to get some real answers. But by and right, I mean, they've put this ad out and they've said, I don't. I don't feel that they're going to actually answer any real questions here. I mean, I've asked it. Everybody's asked kind of the same subset of like 5 questions, and I don't honestly feel that they're going to answer them. I think it's fluffy, and I'm sorry to say that. I'm sorry to hear that. I don't know. Working. Here's what needs to happen in order to resolve this. One, they need to come forward and say, look, we don't have enough players that are sitting with an average ranking of 240 at 30 versus 30 for you guys to viably say we can't find a match and we've been searching for days. They've got to be honest, and there's got to be a pop-up in-game that literally just says, you're too high, you're too low, whatever the case might be, you're not going to find a match. It's got to be transparent. Moving beyond that, that communication needs to be clear. And if it was clear and concise communication that was in-game, you wouldn't be wasting your time trying to talk to customer service who really don't even know. They don't have the right answers. They flip-flop back and forth. It would be in-game. It would be very transparent, very clear. It would pop up and say, you're not going to find a match. And that would be the end of it. Period. You're not going to find a match. Ultimately, if they do fix sandbagging, here's the other problem. If they decide that they're not going to be clear and transparent about that, and they fix sandbagging, that problem is still going to exist. There's still going to be a few teams that are going to war either one with one another, or two, they're not going to find a match, right? Or if they expand that search algorithm, there's going to be these impossible matches where one team is severely outweighted or outmatched. That's where that's at. So if they fix sandbagging, what you guys are referring to as sandbagging, if they fix the matchmaking and they don't come clean with the fact that they don't have any other teams that are ranked that high, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. And I mean, I can guarantee there's a lot of money being spent up there. A ton of money being spent up there. And that's just factual. If you go look at any one of those bases and you calculate the amount of time that it would take to get to that level, you can figure it out. It's not rocket surgery. It's money. Okay. And no, I'm not seeing anything else. And the question that I had was not. Yeah. You're still on point. Where is? How do I respond? I did see the response. I further added to the question based on the response of yes. Please check above, sir. All right. How sad is that? I'm going to check back. Hopefully I'm going to have to go through these later on, obviously when I'm not after the kids are in bed. Maybe we'll have more people that pop on the Discord server, which is a good place, by the way, even if you just wanted to listen. That just kind of popped into my head. If you just wanted to listen, yes. All right. Further to that, I do have a couple of war attacks that I'll be making a little bit later on. But like I said, I don't. At this juncture, now that we're 40 minutes in and we've had one answer actually provided, it's kind of fluffy. Look, you found Thomas. Those are just Thomas noises, aren't they? Yeah. Maybe? Now we're on to page 2. Pain in the butt. And I don't want to go with something weighted. That's the other thing. I don't want to see something weighted where the bottom doesn't count, because my lower end players mean just as much to me as my high end players. I don't care if you're first or if you're 30th. All of the players are valid, and that's kind of why I have a bit of a distaste for saying a weighted average system, is because we do have people in our wars, for like the current war, for instance. In Last Outlaws 2, we are faced off against Ohio players. Great bunch of guys. The last time we faced them, it was when I was actually working alongside Operation Oligarchy and Deep Prime, and I had my secondary over in Treefort. So to give you an idea how much they've grown, significant growth, huge growth, and I congratulate them, commend them on that growth, because it's a huge difference. And it is what I feel a mismatch. Their top player, certainly I could barely get my 4 stars. You can go check that out. I thought my plan was solid and whatnot. However, they are having a significant problem trying to get through our last guy. And I'm talking about you if you're watching Darth Chad, one of the most patient players in the game I know. But they're having a difficult time even 5-starring his base. So to say based on weighted averages that you're not going to count him, well, he's ranked, I can tell you right now, his university research is probably very close to finished or complete for his age. And he's probably close to impossible to 5-star by somebody in his own age. Not that I've seen anyways. Usually it's somebody in the global or atomic age that has to go down and attack this little enlightened age player. So, you know, I don't want to see a weighted system where he is told that he doesn't count. I don't think that would be fair. I don't think that would be right. I am going to end the stream here. I hope to see you guys a little bit later on. Look at that. You can't even see my face. Hi! There's that. All right. I am available on the Discord server on the MC Bootcamp. If you guys want to pop in there at any point in time, if you've got questions, we likely have answers. We would love to hear from you. Check for us later. Marla and I will be around to probably discuss this and hopefully surmise some of the answers that we do get. I hope. And before, get with it, man. We want to see some answers. We want some real answers. Go grab your big stick. Go walk over to the desk. Go grab them by the ears. Say, here, I got Mountain Dew and coffee and Doritos. Answer the questions. That's what you got to do, man. All right. As always, keep your sticks on the ice. Have a good time. Happy Friday.